Hi, good afternoon, or good morning or good evening, wherever you are. I'm Daniel McCarthy, CEO of Mobile Mentor, and thank you for joining this live stream. We're testing out this feature on Teams, like a lot of people are doing at this time of year. And we wanted to just share some of our experiences of working remotely. All our staff are now working from home effective today in response to our COVID-19 business continuity plan. And we just wanted to share some of those experiences with you. I've got with me Liz Knight, our head of security and engineering, who will take some more technical questions. And I've also got Randall Cameron, the managing director of our Australian business, and also our head of sales, who will tell you has got huge experience in working from home in his career. So with that in mind, we've got 20 minutes, so I'll keep it brief. And we have had some questions come in based on our post in LinkedIn. So I can start taking those questions. But if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat window in the Q&A. And we will get them as we go along, and we'll try and make sure we keep it to time. Thank you. So our first question was technical. Microsoft Teams, great for collaboration, particularly in VR situation. The only limitation is that they don't have a direct calling number. Is there any workaround for this in case someone needs to join and they don't have the app installed or internet access? I'll hand that over to Liz.
Hi everyone. So Teams does actually offer the ability to have a direct dial or an audio conferencing number added. But if you're like Mobile Mentor, you might not have got around to that yet. So what we're doing for dial-in calls where people need to be able to dial in using a phone number, we still use our legacy solution. In our case, that's GoToMeeting. For you, it might be WebEx or Zoom. Or a traditional telephone audio conferencing facility. But you do have the option to add that to Teams. So you can do that yourself. So if you look up audio conferencing in Teams on Google, and we can share the link after the post. There's also a lot of partners that will help you set that up as well, but probably not ready for today. So maybe just use what you've always used for dialing in for now.
Thanks, Liz. While we've got you there was one other question, which is how many participants can join a Teams meeting at the same time?
Yeah, so a live stream like this, you can have up to 1,000 participants. And for a Teams video call, for a standard Teams video call, you can have up to 250 participants at a time.
I think it's worth adding that when we have our Teams calls as a global team meetings, we will easily have over 30 to 40 people on Teams, and it seems to handle them really well.
Yeah, we don't usually see any problems, so it's all good.
So the next question was what HR issues need to be covered off when moving staff who are not used to working from home? So I guess the first thing I'd say is we're not an HR company. So I would suggest you definitely talk to an HR advisor if you want to do that, get a more technical HR response. But from a people perspective, I guess I can tell you, the things we've learned is to make sure that their physical environment is, first of all, safe, and that they've got the right chairs, desks, etc. And our HR advisor has shared sort of a checklist with us on that, but also from a technology capability perspective, it's good to have the right equipment, noise cancelling headphones, ideally a decent mic. I'm sitting here with a headset with a mic on it specifically so that I don't pick up the background noise around me. A decent internet, if not a mobile hotspot. And so on. So there's all those things you need to make sure. And then there's the psychological stuff around making sure that staff are able to separate work from home and understand what the hours are and making sure that staff are not overworked because they're suddenly working 24/7 from home. Randall, you've got more experience in this and then all of us, so your perspective?
Yeah, look, as someone who's now done over 20 years working for a company where the head office has never been in the same state as me or country as me. I've always been the remote lone worker and building different businesses around the place. I was thinking about how to answer this question, and in a previous life I used to be a professional ski coach. I was on a ski coaching course once, and a guy said that we look at TP as a way of evaluating skiers coming down a hill, and TP is actually TTPPEE, if you write that down, and it stands for technical, tactical, physical, psychological, environment, or equipment. And you run through all those and you work out what's actually stopping the person doing a better ski run in this case. So let's have a look at that from, what's stopping someone to work from home. So technical, is it a VPN issue? Is it a bandwidth issue? You need to look at the technical constraints that they may be faced with. Is it tactical? That they're actually got to be on the run, that they can't actually work from home, that they're trying to do it while they're driving or something like that. Is it physical? Is it a noisy space? Are they getting a lot of echo? And echo is the enemy of video conferencing. There's always someone not on mute. There's always someone echoing back, and it's a real pain. It still exists today. The technology is getting better. Microsoft Teams pops up a little note that says, "We think you might be the one that's doing the echoing," which is really good. Then you've got psychological, and we use that by turning the camera on. So something at Mobile Mentor is we try and make sure that we have the cameras on as much as we can, so that we are actually connecting with our staff, and it's not just over voice. The environment that you're in, is it noisy? Is it a big enough space? Are you getting other distractions? Is it a dog? Is it a bird? Is it your wife coming and knocking on the door or something like that? And we saw that with the guy in the UK where he was on a Sky interview and his kids came sliding in and things like that. So you do get those environmental distractions. And then obviously the equipment. Are you set up just your height of your camera and things like that? Get a lot of video calls where we're looking up people's noses. Have you got a large screen set up, or are you actually working from your laptop, which maybe you don't do at the office? So taking home the equipment or investing in, as I do, obviously I have a podcast quality microphone that I'm talking to you on. I have some good quality speakers well away from the microphone. I have a pair of Dell screens that are mounted high enough and things like that. So TTPPEE, if you run through that, I think you can get a very good result from working from home.
Thanks, Randall. Liz, anything else from your perspective, from your team?
For my team, actually, more recently, it's been about having the right equipment in regards to test devices, because they're doing a lot of work on customer builds and want to continue doing that when they're at home. So there's a mad scramble in my team at the moment to make sure that they have not just the equipment that they need to communicate internally, but also to do their job externally. So test kits, cables, etc. So I guess thinking beyond just your immediate needs to be considered in these circumstances as well.
Thank you. That's great. Next question. I want to enable my staff to work remotely, but where do I start? Liz.
Yes, very good question. So I guess if we look at examples of what we've been seeing customers do and what's available, it's really about exercising this quite quickly for a lot of customers. So dusting off the BCP and having a look at what was put in place when you're doing your BCP planning and implementing some of those procedures, it's a really good time to do that. And understand your minimum requirements. So making sure that you've got your minimum use cases and things you need to get done remotely covered off for your staff. So we're seeing a lot of different kind of ways of approaching this. So customers might already have a tactical virtual desktop solution with VMware or Citrix. And what they do is expanding that out so it'll be available to more users. It might be that you need to have a look at your VPN solution, and that might be the solution to provide access. At Mobile Mentor, we're very lucky in that we use modern management completely out of the cloud. So for our users, we can work remotely wherever we are. But if we couldn't do that, we would be looking at our existing solutions first and seeing if any of those were fit for purpose and could scale up and scale out, and go from there. And obviously over time, make sure you're looking at what a better solution would be and test those, probably not now while everyone's scrambling, but at some point in the future, making sure you have the best technology to do this again if you need to.
Thanks, Liz. Randall, any other perspectives on that?
No, look, I think Liz has nailed it there. You've got to start with what you have today and work backwards from there. So what's the tactical solution before you move to the strategic solution? Obviously, the strategic solution for everybody is that they want to move to modern management, they want to move to cloud-based, but we understand that that's not relevant for everybody. Right now, you might have a call centre that has a fixed environment, and that's going to be a big challenge for a lot of companies right now that need to work through that. So go tactical to start with, and then put together a strategic plan, but certainly dust off that business continuity plan to start with is a great place to start.
While I've got you, Randall, another question that came through, sort of relatively similar, which is what are you seeing other companies doing in this space? Have we had any kind of our customers talk to us about this?
Look, we've had a few come from many different parts, and we just had an email just this morning from one of our Australian customers who was looking at doing the zero-touch provisioning for Windows devices to get laptops out in the field, but haven't actually done it. And today they've got a requirement to get 200 new laptops just out the door right now that are all getting manually staged and provisioned. And if we think about zero touch in light of the coronavirus that we're talking about here today, that makes a lot of sense, that I don't have to get these devices to go to somewhere for people to touch them. Those people are touching them, are staging them, are reboxing them, are then reshipping them. A courier is then touching them. So by the time you actually get it out of the box, maybe there's been 5 sets of hands on that device. So once again, they're having to go tactical right now because that's the process that they have in place. Whereas putting in a new process that might be better at a time right now is probably not the best idea, even if your other process is manual, but certainly looking towards moving to that, moving forward. So you need to think about how quickly can you get some quick wins on the board. Could you enable iPads, as an example, to be better used, or phones to be better enabled? And we have a lot of customers who have stopped with phones at email, contacts and calendars. Is now the time to push out Microsoft Teams or another collaboration tool, or a OneDrive or another file sharing tool to actually get the mobile device to move beyond email, contacts and calendars? And I think we're fielding a lot of questions around that right now of how can I actually step it up one notch from it just being a phone and just having contacts and emails on it to now starting to be a collaboration tool, whether that be around a document or a conversation like we're having now.
Thanks, Randall. So I'll take another question. This is more around global logistics. We are struggling to get stocks of devices. Thoughts on how we can address this? What are you seeing the same?
We're absolutely seeing the same. Oh. Yeah, that's the answer, and Liz will back me up on that. That 99.9% of mobile devices, and including laptops in that spec, come out of China. And the good news, I guess, is that they're ahead of the curve. They're in recovery mode right now, and factories are starting to open up. As we go into shutdown in New Zealand and Australia, as we start to stop ships and stop airplanes coming into our respective countries, that's going to have constrained delays on things, because I do understand that phones do come via ships, but they also come via airplanes as well. So I think we're going to live in a little bit of a challenged time for hardware right now, and perhaps it's a good time to make sure we're doing an inventory of who needs what, and can we actually live with that device a little bit longer is probably the only outcome that we've got right now, because it is across the board. It's not limited to Apple or Samsung. It is right across the board.
Thank you, Liz. Anything else to add on that? Or
no, I guess just from our perspective, what we're seeing is that customers doing device refresh programs at the moment, they're on a hold, and that stock that we do have is being prioritised for users that need it. for a response or important BAU tasks. So it's really just realigning your priorities right now and reassessing and making decisions based on what needs to be done immediately over the long-term project.
And that, yeah, completely. Thank you. That applies to us too as an organisation. We're about to do a laptop refresh as an organisation in the coming weeks, and we're actually just reviewing that right now in terms of instead of the next 2 weeks, it may have to be the next 3 or 4 months. Those are reprioritization we have to do. Another question came through is what can we do to improve our cybersecurity risk for our home workers? I guess that's a bit of a broad question. Liz, I'll throw it at you first. Yeah.
I'll take that one. Those that know me I've been begging on about ensuring that you've got multi-factor authentication on your cloud services for months now. So I'm thinking if you don't have it on now, it might be a little bit late for the next couple of weeks. But look, there's very simplest things you can be doing is making sure your hardware is patched. If you're going to use a VPN, make sure that's running the latest software levels. Get your team focused on keeping that up to date. The hardware that you're going to be running your business systems on, your data, your email, make sure those devices are up to date. That's probably the simplest thing you can do right now to protect yourself, is making sure you're updating your hardware, because you're probably not going to have time to get much else implemented at this point.
I think the device update is certainly the big one there, Liz. Coming from mobile land, we live in a fluid motion of always be on the latest update. And now when we start to add a home-based device, and it may be a BYO home device, that is perhaps the legacy family PC that hasn't been patched in many, many years, you can be opening yourself up to a real can of worms there. So making sure that patch level, and I was delighted just this morning to see that I received an email from our device management platform as an automated email that listed my device type, which is a Surface Pro X, requires a Windows 10 update because it's on version X and needs to be on Y, and prompted me to do that as a proactive move. So if we can get users in the habit like they are with their mobile phones, I think the little psychological red tick or icon or bubble on mobile phones does some pretty funny things to people, where some people don't mind seeing that on their settings icon, but other people it drives them bonkers until they apply their update. We need certainly more of that in the world, so that we are addressing that cybersecurity effectively.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'm conscious of time. We're getting to the last minute, so I think I'll close it there because the device will extend beyond our allotted time. But so first of all, thank you, Liz. Thank you, Randall, for joining the call. Thank you, Will, who's in the background helping us run this call and switching screens. I hope you got something out of this this live stream. If you do have any questions, do feel free to reach out. We're in this together, and we're really out to share our experience and knowledge with the broader business community, so we can keep people mobile and productive. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.